Raheem Morris out as the Falcons head coach. That came last night from Adam Schefter, the beginning of several moves that we anticipate over the course of the day across the NFL landscape. The regular season over for so many coaches and for teams, and that means coaching changes are going to be made all over the place. ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano joins us now for thoughts on it. Dan, appreciate you hanging out with us. I know it's a wild, crazy day. Let's start with the Falcons. They're cleaning house. How surprised are you that this is the direction they're going?
Not overly surprised. The head coach and GM were both things we were watching there in Atlanta. Very disappointing season, although they did end up tied for first place in their division. That's a true statement. But no, they had higher hopes, obviously, than this. And even after only 2 years, even a coach, as well liked as Raheem Morris, who has a great relationship with the owner, he just wasn't going to survive the level of disappointment relative to expectations. And then Terry Fontenot, the GM, who's been there longer, it's just a total house cleaning. But, it's Atlanta. Like, it's weird. They've hired different search firms, one for the GM job and one for the head coach job. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work, although I give them credit for being original, if nothing else. But yeah, that'll be an interesting couple of jobs to watch because there's a lot of talent on that team. They just haven't played to what ownership believes is their potential.
Yeah, I think the team that was tied for first place in the division that just fired their head coach tells you everything that you need to know about the NFC South.
About the division,
In addition to the search firms, we've also learned, all reports say that Matt Ryan will be coming in as president of football operations. I've also seen reports that both the GM and the head coach will be reporting to Matt Ryan. What are your thoughts on the Falcons bringing Matt Ryan back in and what looks to be the power structure moving forward?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works with Matt Ryan, of course, not having any experience in this kind of role. Now we see it from time to time. Tom Brady is has a significant role with the Las Vegas Raiders. Doesn't have prior experience running a team. I don't know if Matt Ryan will also keep his broadcasting job. We'll see about that. But yeah. Look, Matt Ryan's a franchise icon. He brings credibility in the eyes of the Falcons fan, right? Like people will be excited about this. The question will, of course, be how good is he at it? An unknowable thing, and also like what does the power structure end up being? Do you find your Ben Johnson, your Liam Cohen, who can engineer sort of this quick hit turnaround and kind of be the coach that establishes and articulates the vision for the entire franchise in an effective way that the players and coaches and fans and front office buy in. That to me is the mission if you're the Atlanta Falcons, and assuming Matt Ryan is their whatever president of football, that for him as well is to find that front facing, because if you're Matt Ryan and you're coming in this role, you're not going to be the face of the organization. It's the head coach that is always out there, that is the most visible guy, that has to be sort of the front man. So you need to find your sort of alpha, I think, in that role and build it out around him.
I will also remind everybody that turnarounds seem a little easier when you have surefire quarterbacks that you can bank on too. I'm not saying it just seems to make a difference. Speaking of coaches that, it seems to, Dan. Speaking of coaches that maybe didn't have a surefire quarterback, Kevin Stefanski, they couldn't get that figured out in Cleveland. He is now gone. So what do you make of this from Cleveland's standpoint first?
From Cleveland's standpoint, I don't know, man. Like, they got to get quarterback figured out, like you say. I don't think Kevin Stefanski was in a position to succeed. The Deshaun Watson thing was a complete catastrophe in all respects. He's still under contract for another year at $46 guaranteed million. I don't know who's going to be able to survive that. I almost feel like with Cleveland, the quarterback decision is more important than the coach decision. Do you need someone with previous experience, right? Do you need a Mike McCarthy type? Is that the spot for him? Is it better to find a first-year guy that's not done it before, that might have potential? Is it better to promote from the staff and give it to someone with experience like a Jim Schwartz, who's the defensive coordinator, who's obviously done a great job in that role there? So Cleveland to me is a big mystery. Kevin Stefanski's a really good coach. I think he'll be of interest to other cycle. I do. I don't know that Cleveland's going to upgrade that spot, and I'm not sure it's going to matter till they get quarterback figured out.
What does Cleveland moving on from Kevin Stefanski indicate to you about their intentions at the quarterback position?
Nothing. Like I don't want to be glib, but like they are at a complete crossroads at the quarterback position. Deshaun Watson comes back healthy next year. He's still under contract for a year. Could he be an option? Shadur Sanders finished this season as their starter. Could he be an option? They have 2 first-round picks. Could they find the option there? So I don't think it tells you anything about their where they stand at quarterback other than they're not where they need to be. And I don't think that the firing of Kevin Stefanski is any kind of referendum on, their current quarterback situation. Was he supposed to turn Shadur Sanders into or Dylan Gabriel into something more than a 5th round or a 3rd round rookie? Was he supposed to do something with a Deshaun Watson who was kind of a broken player when they got him and dealing with all kinds of non-football things as well as injuries that have been a significant problem for him there. So no, I think it's blank slate is what it tells you. And they've just decided to start again with a new coach.
All right, Dan. So rather than me texting you in the middle of the night, I'll just ask you my Raiders questions here. Let's go. All right. So first and foremost, we get these reports now. Florio's out here saying that Brady wants to get his way he wants. Brian Flores as the head coach and Daboll as the offensive coordinator. I mean, how viable is all of this, Brady? Because I feel like I've spent a year hearing about Brady's involvement, non-involvement, non-involvement. Now everybody's blaming everybody else. How viable is this Brady comes in and just decides what's going to happen portion?
I think it would be more viable if he gave up his other job. Like I don't know that he's going to be able to be the executive that the Raiders want and need him to be if he's doing it part-time. So I think that's step one. Step two is, who is he going to find? Last year, he thought he was going to get Ben Johnson to coach and Matthew Stafford to play quarterback, and he didn't get either one. So they pivot to Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. Obviously, that doesn't work out. So now what do? The report about Brian Flores and Brian Daboll is a fascinating one to me because those are the two Brians that are at the heart of the lawsuit that is still pending by Brian Flores against the NFL for the fiasco with the Giants a couple of years ago and Belichick texting the wrong Brian to congratulate him. Remember that story? So to get both of the Bryans together, I think would be a really fun sort of bow to put on that situation. But I can't speak to that. Look, Brady he has connections to both of those guys from their New England days. It makes a lot of sense as speculation. I think Brian Flores is a really good coach. I think Brian Daboll is a really good coach. If that's the brain trust the Raiders end up with, then I think you could have success with that. But I just don't know going forward the power structure there. It sounds like Mark Davis is leaving a lot of it to Brady. It sounds like Brady is, John Spytek, the GM, who's Brady's guy. They're buddies from, Michigan and Tampa Bay. So, they'll probably work fine together. But then what are you bringing in terms of the coach? Is the coach going to be that guy I was just talking about when we were discussing Atlanta? The sort of the alpha, the son, the center of the organization in terms of the vision and the decisions that get made? Or is the Brady / Spytek combo going to have a heavy hand and that muddles the operation? So I think we need to see more in order to learn more about how the Raiders are going to operate in this situation with Tom Brady having so much power. And obviously what they do at coach and quarterback this offseason will have a lot to say about how it works going forward.
Do you believe that Maxx Crosby will be a Raider next year?
Good question. I believe that Maxx Crosby has always wanted to be and stay a Raider. And I think I would say yes. I don't know that they're going to make a coaching decision that would like rankle Maxx Crosby to the point where he'd want out. It's possible that the way this season ended with them putting him on IR against his wishes has a lasting effect, but we haven't heard that. So I feel like that relationship between player and team is strong enough that it can be preserved. And so, yes, I would lean yes in terms of Maxx Crosby next year as a Raider.
The Raiders also did secure the #1 overall pick yesterday. So is it a foregone conclusion that the Raiders will stick and pick at #1?
No, because I don't think these organizations have all done their full due diligence on the draft prospects. Now, it makes a lot of sense for a team that needs a quarterback to stick and pick at #1 if there's a quarterback they feel can be, that guy. So is Fernando Mendoza that guy, right? Is Dylan Moore from Oregon that guy? We don't I think we're early enough in the draft process now that we can't say that for sure, and probably neither can the Raiders. So I think that's the overwhelming likelihood. But if you figure out quarterback some other way, and there's a team that wants to come up and draft one, like it's also an organization that could use some picks, and needs the picks and the resources to rebuild. So they have to weigh that. Is this quarterback that we could take at number one, whoever he is he our Joe Burrow, our I don't know if this is a good example, Trevor Lawrence, right? Our Peyton Manning, all right, like that changes everything for us. And then we build out around that. Or are we better off addressing that some other way and amassing picks and building out a great infrastructure and do like the Seattle Sam Darnold model, where, yes, we have a great team around him and a good enough quarterback to get us where we need to go.
All right, let's switch over to another disappointing season in Tampa Bay. Is Todd Bowles' job security safe?
It's another good question that we're working on today as sort of the Monday after the regular season dawns. This is kind of surprised a lot of people, obviously, the way they finished the season. This is the first time since he's been Tampa Bay's head coach that Todd Bowles hasn't won the division. He was recently extended, so he signed for several more years, so it would cost them money to fire him. So I would lean toward him being safe, but I believe this is a conversation that is actually ongoing about what the future of the Buccaneers franchise is going to be. So I know they like him. They've had success with him, but this was a team that came in as a four-time defending division champion and believed it had a roster to be more than that this year. Like, I remember visiting them in training camp, and they had the highest of hopes. Now, they had this ridiculous rash of injuries throughout the first half of the season. And then by the time guys got back healthy, it had kind of fallen apart. Baker Mayfield's out there playing with 3 or 4 different injuries. It just didn't come together. To what extent is that the fault of the head coach? To what extent does the head coach get a break based on his past success there? That's why I kind of lean toward him being safe. But I have people telling me on the outside, people sort of around the league that monitor these things, to keep watching that situation for a potential change. I just don't think we're there yet to the point where we can report definitively that it's going to break one way or the other.
Is John Harbaugh going to be the coach of the Ravens next year?
You guys are asking all the really tough questions. This is, John Harbaugh is, he's an institution there. He is, he's signed beyond the 2026. Like I don't think the Ravens, I don't see a situation where the Ravens fire John Harbaugh. I'll put that out there right now. The example everybody points to when we talk about a situation like this or a Mike Tomlin situation is Andy Reid at the end in Philadelphia, when obviously the Eagles were done, but they made it kind of a mutual thing, and he got a job coaching the Chiefs 3 or 4 days later, and that has gone pretty well. Could John Harbaugh find himself in a situation like that where he or the Ravens feel like it's just sort of time? At some point that probably does happen. Is it this week or next week? I would lean no, but again, I keep using this word lean, and I wish I could come on and be like definitive, like, no, it looks bad for John Harbaugh. I think this is an organization that has a lot to figure out. The quarterback, Lamar Jackson, his salary cap number goes up to almost $75 million next year unless they extend him. Do they extend him again? Do they let him play that out? And so to what extent is Harbaugh involved in those decisions? To what extent does he want to be around, depending on how those decisions break down? So I just think that's a Ravens team that did not expect to be in this position as recently as the fourth quarter last night, and has to have some big picture conversations about the future of the organization. The other question is, when you talk about a team like Baltimore or Pittsburgh, because they seem to get talked about together, who are you going to get? And like, you have somebody in the building who is a head coach, who you've had success with, who you've won the Super Bowl with. So are you pressing the reset button to an extent that like Seattle did 2 years ago? And then they hit on Mike McDonald, who appears to be a young superstar caliber coach. So you better make sure you have somebody in mind who can make the transition easy. When the Eagles moved on from Andy Reid, they went to Chip Kelly, and that didn't turn out to be the answer. So you've got to make sure you have a plan for where you're going to pivot. And this year's class of head coaching candidates is not being viewed by a lot of people in the league as like full of stars. That's why I mentioned like Stefanski could be a guy that bounces right away and gets a job, because it's just, people are looking for that stud offensive coordinator, and that Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen type doesn't seem to be in this bunch.